Welcome to the Delicious Alignment Podcast, where we discuss all things self-love, body love, and food freedom. Hi, I'm Rhonda Ryder, Love Your Body coach and author of the book Delicious Alignment: How 25 Women Learn to Love and Transform Their Bodies Using Abraham Hicks and the Law of Attraction. This podcast is designed to inspire you to connect even more with your inner being so you too can experience the beauty and wholeness of your spiritual and physical self at any size. If you're ready to experience the freedom that comes with learning to love and accept your body, and yes, transform it too, if that's something you want, you're in the right place. Today, I'm super excited to launch my second episode, an interview with Zehra Mahoon. Zehra is a master mindset and law of attraction coach and manifesting expert. She's the author of 12 books on the law of attraction and the creator of the unlimited 40-day law of attraction workout. Zehra believes that all things are possible and that you can start from where you are and create a better future once you begin to understand how to use basic law of attraction concepts. A few of the things we talk about in this episode include self-love, self-soothing, including how to soothe those critical thoughts about our bodies and food choices. The path of least resistance, what is it? Taking your focus off your body when it doesn't feel good to put your attention there, and much, much more. I start off asking Zehra if she has ever struggled with body image. Her answer, in the form of a fascinating story from her childhood, may surprise you. By the way, if you prefer video, you can watch the recording at deliciousalignment.com/podcast. Let's dive in. Hello, Zehra. Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Rhonda.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's so funny. I was thinking this morning how the law of attraction works. I was thinking to myself, I would really like someone for my second guest, and people, of course, with being December, people are getting really into holidays and whatever and busy. And I saw your post. I saw your post on Facebook about your new book and the beautiful design and everything, Law of Attraction book. And I was inspired to reach out to you right then and there. And then you were a yes. It just goes to show how the law of attraction works.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. That's an example of law of attraction in action.
Yeah, the right place at the right time,
Yeah.
and you happened to be available and so graciously said yes to do this interview. And then I really didn't know that much about you, except that my friend Susan Hasselberger, she had wonderful things to say about you, and that's really basically all I knew, is that you did a book club, a book study program, and you had different programs. But then when I started looking into you and listening to some of the podcasts that you've done before, I was like, oh, I've really landed a great interview.
Well, thank you. That's so sweet of you to say that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I really mean it. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to be free flowing, like you said in just a moment ago. We're both seem to be kindred spirits. We both like free flowing, be in the moment, and see where the conversation goes. I do want to touch upon this thing of self-worth and self-love. I know that you do some of that, a lot of that in your
Mm-hmm.
work and your
Yes.
coaching. And then just see where it goes.
Sounds good to me.
Great, perfect. So I do want to start out because, as you know, Delicious Alignment is about body love, learning to accept yourself. It's based on the teachings of Abraham Hicks, food freedom. And you and I have not had a conversation prior to this about this subject. So I just want to know you personally, Zehra, have you had any sort of what's your journey been with body image and food freedom? Do you have any experience with that, or is it mostly helping others with the issue?
I think it's a huge part of my journey with law of attraction. It wasn't something that I started out with, but very quickly I realized that all of my issues in life had to do with self-worth, and self-worth has so many different aspects. It's not just about who we are and what we look like. It goes way beyond that. It, it's your personality is part of it, how you look is part of it, how you present yourself to others, and what you think other people are thinking about you is all part of it. So it gets really complex, but I can tell you that as I was growing up, I had a couple of issues with the way I looked. And my issues now seem very trivial and I laugh at them, but at the time when I was a kid, they were serious. So I'll tell you a little bit of a story. When I was 11 months old, I am told that I started walking when I was 11 months old. And there was some event going on at my parents' house where they weren't really paying attention to me. And somebody put me on a chair, and I stood on top of the chair holding on to the back of the chair. But we had a little dog, and the dog came over to the chair. And as I bent over to pet the dog, I fell over. And I fell onto a ceramic flower pot that broke and cut my face.
Where?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
Before I tell you, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you see a scar on my face?
No.
There's a really big scar on my face.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened is my parents at that time lived out in the boonies because my father was working on a construction project out in the boonies. He was a civil engineer
Was this in Canada, or are you from
in
Pakistan?
Pakistan.
Yes.
And so there were no medical facilities available for them to take me to. So it was like, I don't know, a 2-hour drive before they could get to a medical facility. And my father describes how I was bleeding all the way there. And anyway, they got me to a small clinic, not a hospital, where the doctor patched things up, and he sewed up the gash on my face. And apparently those stitches were not the neatest. As I grew, so two things happened. One, he didn't set the bone properly. And second, he sewed it up and it was a mess.
So
And
you you fractured a bone or something in your face?
yes, I did.
Oh, okay. And this is 11 months old?
Yes.
Okay.
And so as I started growing older, so my parents thought, it's okay, we'll deal with this when she's older. And as I started growing older, as my bones were growing, that bone that broke started sticking out of my face as it grew because it wasn't set properly.
Mm.
So now I had two things going on. I had the great big scar and I had a bone sticking out.
Mm.
The bone sticking out, my parents prayed on, and from or by the power of prayer, it fixed itself.
Your parents prayed on it?
Yes, and it fixed itself. It was like a big, not a big, but a tiny, um, uh, like a deer antler, like deers have antlers. It was something very similar sticking out of my face. And so my parents prayed on it. I forget how many days they told me once how many days they prayed on it, and it went away on its own. But as it went away, it left another scar on my face.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And as I was growing up, I hated the way I looked because every time I looked at myself, all I could see was the scars.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like having my picture taken. I thought I was ugly. People told me that the scar looked ugly. Like everyone that I ever met wanted to know what happened. And then the next thing they would say is, oh, you poor dear, or something like that, right? Then
Yeah. So now you're in your teenage years,
um,
or younger.
all along.
Mhm.
So in my teenage years, I absolutely hated this. Like I absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone to see me. I hid behind my mother, so to speak. But something wonderful happened. And what happened is I got so busy, I got so enthusiastic about my studies that I got really, really busy into my studies that I forgot that I had a scar.
Mhm.
And one day when I was chatting with a group of friends, and they were talking about really bad scrapes and falls and things like that, and I said, oh yeah, this thing happened to me and I have this scar on my face. I don't kid you, Rhonda, they looked at me and they said, what scar on your face?
Oh.
There's a scar on your face, we've never seen it. This is just, you're making it up. I said, no, 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 I have a scar on my face, can't you see it?
Mhm.
And my friends said they couldn't see the scar. That's why I just asked you a question. Do you see the scar on my face? Because it's right here, but nobody sees it. Well, you don't see it because I don't see it anymore. And this is what I realized.
Mm.
I realized that people don't see the scar, even though they're like 5 inches from my face. They
Uh-huh.
don't see the scar because I don't see it.
Wow. I just got chills. Yeah.
And I realized, and then that set me free. So even before I had my first encounter with Abraham, even before I discovered anything to do with law of attraction, I discovered the power of focus, that if I don't see it, nobody else does.
Mhm.
And that happened to me in two different cases. So I've told you one story. The other story has to do with height. As I was growing up, my mother always, so my father was average height. He was not a tall man. And my father and my mother were exactly the same height. In fact, if she wore 6 inches heels, she was taller than him. So my mother always used to say to me as I was growing up, I hope you don't take after your father, because then you should I hope you take after me instead of your father, because I don't want you to be short. And that is exactly why I turned out not to grow as quickly as other children,
Mhm.
and ended up having in my teenagers a huge complex, not just because of the scar on my face, but because my lack of inches.
Mhm. Well, it was an expectation that I will probably
Yes,
be
it
short.
was an expectation.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
yes.
you had. Yeah.
And so
And we get what we expect as
well,
a kid.
absolutely, that's exactly right. So here I am, same family. My brother isn't short at all. In fact, he's very, very tall, right?
Mhm.
And there are other people in my family, they're not short. And so, and my father was short among seven brothers. He was on the short side, whereas all the others are quite tall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but you see, I didn't know how to think about it. I just
Mhm.
was afraid that I was going to be short. So I ended up being short.
Right.
And then I forgot about it again. I forgot about it when I started working. And in my work environment, height was never a consideration. It was when I was at school. I wasn't as tall as other girls. I couldn't reach this or reach that, or like whatever,
I do.
lots of stuff. You know what I mean, right? So
Short, and short arms. So I know.
yeah, exactly. So, but then again, something wonderful happened. I actually was in a position where I was managing a team of something like 30 people. And I was a very young executive. I've just done my MBA and working for this company and had a lot of responsibility. And I fired someone because I was asked to let this person go. So I fired him. And then it stayed with me that I fired this person. And then I met him maybe a year or so later, like on the street, bumped into him. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh my God, I never realized how short you were, because
Oh,
when we were working together, you towered over me." And
oh,
this was a really tall man.
oh, interesting.
And again, I had the same thought. I was like, oh, he didn't notice I was short. He thought I was towering over him because of the way I carried myself.
Ah,
So I guess being short is not such a bad thing after all. Like I just let it go. It slipped. I let it go.
yeah,
I let it drop. And then guess what happened?
you grew a couple of inches.
Yes, I did.
I was waiting for that.
I did. I did.
Mhm.
So it was a very pleasant side effect of letting go of a belief and then immediately seeing the result, which is exactly what law of attraction is.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I love that. I love that. And it makes me think when you were talking about how the scar disappeared, you didn't see the scar anymore, and then therefore other people didn't see it. I'm just trying to relate it to our listeners that and even myself, like if I see myself as a certain way,
Then that's how other
then
people see you.
like say like oh say someone sees themselves as overweight and
Mm-hmm.
they're focused on that, which is
Yes.
really the thing why I do what I do, because uh, I have been through that journey where we're focused on what we don't want, and in this case the perception of being overweight, I don't even like that word overweight, but that's a lot of times what people feel. And then imagine if you stop focusing on that
Yes.
and you stop seeing that.
Yes. It goes away.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we keep focusing on it.
That's right.
That's the thing.
So this is how I discovered through my own personal experiences that this stuff works. And then when I met Abraham and I started understanding a little bit about law of attraction before I met Abraham through Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and other people who were talking about the same thing, but not calling it law of attraction. And as I listened to them and learned from them, I started making sense of what had happened in my life. And there are so many other experiences that I went through as well as a child and as a young adult that I didn't know how I caused things to happen, but some wonderful things happen and some not so wonderful things happen. But when I understood law of attraction, I was able to make sense of all of it.
Right. Right. And then you look back and that's why when things are happening right now, like for instance, I have this thing that happened with my shoulder. I injured my shoulder somehow with working, with bad posture, sitting on the couch and typing, and that's my story anyway. And then just getting to this place where okay, this is happening for me, not to me, not to my detriment. This is happening for me, and I don't know why yet. And that's kind of the way I'm looking at it now. But at first, it was like, why isn't this healing? Why isn't this going away? So that sort of thing. And then, but when I know that it's happening for me, but I just don't
Yes,
know why yet. And that's
exactly.
okay. I don't need to know right now.
Yes, that's right. It's a
Yeah.
totally different way of looking at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you do you do private coaching or do you do more group, and what are the areas that you focus on?
um, Whatever calls me. And so, yes, I do take on private clients from time to time, and I have lots of group programs. And where I like to interact with people, but primarily I'm an author. I'm an author who thinks that just buying a book doesn't fix anything. You need to be able to apply what's in the book. And so that is why I have programs that are based on the books that I've written so that I can help people to actually apply the material in the books to their lives.
Oh, I love that. That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
Because I mean, how many times have you bought a book and once you're done reading the book, you're like, oh, yeah, that was good material. But then do you actually apply it? And
Right.
application is where all the benefit is.
Yes, absolutely. I do the same thing. I do the same thing. So, as you know, Zara, a lot of what I do is based on self love, learning to love yourself. It started out, with my book, wanting to, I interviewed over 25 women who had actually released pounds using the teachings of Abraham Hicks, only to discover that it's really about self love, all everything really. And then, like, kind of, I don't want to contribute to the diet mentality by saying you need to be a certain size to be valuable, to be okay. I, really don't want to contribute to that whole thing. But I love contributing to the conversation of self-love, appreciating your body. If you want to transform your body, that's okay too. Because if you Google or go on YouTube and search, weight loss Abraham Hicks, you're going to find lots and lots of videos. So Abraham doesn't say that there's something wrong with having a desire to, you know, transform your body. Oh, any desire is nothing
Yes,
good or bad about any desire.
that's right.
So really, I'd love to talk about I'd like to ask you, what would you suggest for people that are in that sort of downward spiral of criticizing themselves and their appearance? What are some things that you would suggest?
Well, here's the thing. Our appearance is probably one of the most difficult things to deal with because we look at ourselves every day. And I think that if you could block out all the mirrors in your house and stop looking at yourself for a month, that you would derive a lot of benefit from that exercise. Just stop looking at yourself in the mirror, because every time you look at yourself, you're causing your attention to go towards the things that you don't want. And I know that there is this thing that Abraham teaches us called momentum, that if you've been doing it for a while, then you can't just stop doing it. It doesn't work that way because thoughts have momentum. And so getting off the subject, as Abraham teaches us, is a better strategy to follow than anything else. And so if you could divert your attention away from your appearance, then and leave it up to the universe to figure out how to get you to what you want to look like, just let it go, let go control. I think that that's the easier way of doing things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, and I think that if you did that for a little while and allowed momentum to subside, then you would be in a position to have more control. And that's when you start doing exercises, not right away.
Yeah.
So there are, of course, so many exercises that Abraham teaches us, and um, paramount among all of them is appreciation. And whether that appreciation is for yourself and the way you look, or that appreciation is for the tree outside your window, it is nevertheless appreciation. And appreciation is the vibration that we want to be on, because when we are on that vibration, all things are possible. So we just have to find a way of getting onto that vibration and staying off the subject that you want to fix until you are able to look at that subject without feeling bad. So if I was to look away from my appearance out to the tree, for enough time that now when I gaze at myself in the mirror, I don't feel bad. Now I can work on myself.
Yeah.
But as long as I look at myself and feel bad, I am not ready for doing the work.
Yeah. So if I'm looking in the mirror and I'm feeling good, like, oh wow, look at those toned legs, or look at, and I'm appreciating what I see. Like, I have
Mm-hmm.
a positive experience when I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
then that's great, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
So, for a lot of people who have been suffering from low self worth, low self esteem, or don't like the way they look, they first have to look away from themselves and
Yeah.
then come back to it.
Yeah. So it's really like with anything, like with
Yes.
money
Yes.
or any subject really, like, or wanting to find a partner, or anything at all. It's about,
Yes. That's
the more
correct.
if you're focusing on it and it feels bad to focus on it, then we call it, there's a channeler called Viola, and they call it covering the mirror, cover it up, cover up
Mm-hmm.
what you don't want to, what doesn't feel good right now,
Yes.
and focus on something else that feels good.
Yes.
It could be
Exactly.
anything else. It does not have to be on the topic at
Exactly.
all.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
That's exactly it.
yeah. And the first step in my book is, get off the scale and get in alignment. Really, what I'm saying is the same thing that you're saying is, stop measuring.
Mm-hmm.
Stop
Yes.
measuring.
Yes. Exactly. Absolutely.
Unless it feels good. Unless it feels good.
Yes. And
Then,
so that happens. For example, you'll notice that when people are on the journey of weight loss, when they start seeing the weight loss, then they get excited and they want to see how much they've lost,
yeah,
you know? And so that makes them feel good. So now they've turned around. I, I kind of use the analogy of turning a car around. So doing a U-turn. So once you do the U-turn, now you're good. Now you can look.
yeah.
Now you can look.
Yeah, because that's exactly what's happening to me right now. I I'm hiking a lot, I'm walking a lot, and I feel like, oh wow, my legs are toning up, and
Hmm.
I like looking in the mirror. I
Hmm.
like looking and seeing, muscles where there maybe wasn't weren't muscles before, and I enjoy that. But when I find when I'm not, doing those, when I'm not exercising as much, then it's like, I don't want to look in the mirror because I don't feel good. So I don't look in the mirror. And I really believe, and I teach that it's really, like, work with your beliefs.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the path of least resistance. So it
Yes.
would be so wonderful to be able to just make these changes, if you were interested in making changes to your body vibrationally, like,
Yeah.
just with your energy, and like, poof, I can do this, and just vibrationally, and I don't have to exercise. And I have spoken with people and interviewed people that have done that. It's
Hmm.
purely
It's
vibrational.
possible. It is possible.
Yes.
For a lot of people, it is not, but there are people for whom it is possible. It's the same thing as some people are just able to wake up one day and say, I will no longer smoke, and then they can. But there are other people who don't find it as easy. It's
Right.
a decision, just like any other decision. And you can make that decision really difficult, or you can make it easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that especially in this circle that we're in, this law of attraction, Abraham Hicks world, sometimes people feel bad because they're not able to do it vibrationally.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
but I really think that, it's about your beliefs, and
Yes.
go with the path of least resistance. If, like, for me right now, I don't have that belief that I can do it vibrationally, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, my
Yes.
path of least
Absolutely.
resistance is working with my beliefs,
Yeah.
which my beliefs are about exercise, not like calorie counting or anything like that. I don't have those beliefs, but I have this belief about moving my body. That if,
Yes.
so the path of least resistance for me is to move my body when I'm inspired to do so,
Right.
not forcing
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. So true.
Speaking of working with your beliefs, I'm so excited to take this short break and tell you about my brand new 6-week program, Self-Love, Body Love, and Food Freedom. For the past year, I've been in a phase of integration where I've been studying with new spiritual teachers and mentors, all of them in alignment with the teachings of Abraham Hicks. This 6-week class is all new material, inspired by my own journey and recent expansion, the spiritual kind of expansion. And I can't wait to share this information with you. We'll have 2 sessions a week, one based on the theme of that week's lesson and one where you can get in the hot seat. There will be lots of opportunities to get in the hot seat and get calibrated by me, which basically means I'm your guide, helping you move up the vibrational scale to feeling better about your body, your relationship with food, or any other subject you want to get calibrated on. Whether you're interested in transforming your body or simply accepting it, your energy and your vibration are the key factors in allowing what you want to come into your life. All sessions will be recorded. Go to deliciousalignment.com/I love me to get all the details, or click on the link in the show notes. On another note, I want to make sure you know that my online course, based on my book, Delicious Alignment, How 25 Women Learn to Love and Transform Their Bodies Using Abraham Hicks and the Law of Attraction, is now available for only $27. If you're more of a visual person, the online course is for you. Go to deliciousalignment.com/online course or click the link in the show notes. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the difference between forcing it and being inspired and inspired action. Forced action and inspired action. So when do you take that action?
Inspired action is always an impulse that comes from within. And forced action is usually feels like there's a lot of effort, as the word forced implies. So if there's effort involved, you have to ask yourself, why is there effort involved? And a lot of times we are fighting with ourselves, and that's why it feels like effort.
Yeah.
So let me give you an example on the same subject that you just brought up. Let's say that someone like yourself believes that if they want to get back into the kind of shape that they want for themselves, that they need exercise, but then they don't do exercise, then nothing can change. You see,
Right.
that's what it means to go with your belief. That's your path of least resistance. Yes, that's your path of least resistance because you believe that you need to do it. So if you believe that you need to do something and then you don't do it, it actually does you more harm. Mm-hmm. Because because you see, here's the thing: if you believe you should do something and you don't do it, you're causing yourself to feel guilt. And where is guilt? Guilt is not a positive vibration. Guilt is a negative vibration. In fact, it's very, very negative. It's way down on the emotional scale. Right? So this is why if you believe that you need to do something, you should do it. Otherwise, it feels bad. All of procrastination is about that. People don't do the things that they think they should be doing, and then they feel bad about it. But they can't bring themselves to do it because it seems like an effort. So why does it feel like an effort? You see, you know that you should exercise because that is your path of least resistance, but you don't do it anyway because it seems like too much of an effort. Then you have to ask yourself, why? Why does, if it's really something that I want, then it shouldn't feel like an effort. And if it feels like an effort, then I suppose I don't want this thing as much as I thought I wanted it. and make peace with it, because fighting it is going to just create more negative energy. And that, I feel, is the biggest problem. People don't make peace with where they are.
Hmm. I'm glad you said the making peace with it, because sometimes there's no exercise. Maybe somebody who wants to exercise and is not, oh, I joined the gym and I'm not going, now I feel guilt. Um, but I love where, for me personally, I've gotten, and I keep practicing this and getting better at it, is it's okay if I'm not inspired to exercise right now. Like, I'm getting more and more comfortable with, I'm more and more comfortable with making peace with it.
Exactly.
And because what happened in the past is, oh my God, I'm not exercising, I'm going to gain weight, and then this whole thing starts. And so I've, over the years, learned how to
Yes.
soothe myself when those thoughts start coming in. So I've
Yeah.
learned how to soothe myself. I've learned how to, alignment is my number one priority. So what would help me feel better right now? Better right
Yes.
now, better right now, better right now. So making peace with yourself. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about soothing yourself, because I've looked at some of your podcasts and I see that you do talk about this quite a bit as well. Soothing yourself when when these thoughts start building momentum. So what are some things that you would say, that you tell your groups, etc., about how to soothe yourself?
Well, I think that you have to be your own best friend. What would you say if your best friend was down in the dumps because they were upset because of whatever was going on or what they were thinking? Those same things that you would say to a friend, you have to say to yourself instead of beating up on yourself. We know this intuitively, that we are our own worst critics. When we are doing something that feels bad, instead of being nice to ourselves, suddenly we turn on ourselves and we beat up on ourselves. And that's where it goes wrong. So, what would a friend say to you? A friend would say, "It's okay. Don't worry about it. You've got this. I trust. When you're ready, you'll do it. And when you're ready, you will do it so quickly that, it'll be amazing. It'll be like a miracle. So don't worry about it. It's okay if you can't do it today. It's okay if you don't feel like it. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Everything is going to be all right." That's how you soothe yourself, right? That's how you would soothe a friend. That's how you soothe yourself. It's the same
Can
language.
I borrow you and just have you here in my ear? I was going to tell you this before, like, you have such a calming presence. So it was like, yeah, just have Zehra over here saying it's okay. And that's really the beauty of working with a coach and working with someone, or being in a supportive group where you all like-minded people
Yes,
who support each
absolutely.
other in this. Because
Yes.
I come from a place where, oh my God, there was a lot of self hatred and depression, in my 20s and even 30s. And all it would just be, oh, you have no discipline, you're fat, you're unattractive, nobody would want to go out with you, just da 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 da. And you
Yeah.
eventually finding Abraham, and then learning, and then getting some coaches, and then hearing their voices in my head when I started doing that whole thing. And then eventually, for me anyway, I start replacing the coach's voice with my own voice, and then I learn how to soothe myself, hear my own voice doing it. So,
Yes,
and I love what
exactly.
you're saying. I mean, we hear that a lot, would you talk to a friend that way? And
Yes,
no, no.
exactly. That's exactly it. So that's all there is. You just need someone to make you feel better. And there are times when you have to do it yourself. In fact, you should be able to do it yourself, because then you have complete control.
Mm-hmm.
You're not looking outside of you for anything. But there are times in our life when we do need help, and it's okay to ask for help and accept help at those times. Because guess what? help is brought to us by the law of attraction.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the universe understands that this is a stage in our lives when we don't have the wherewithal to do it all ourselves. So the universe will bring to us people and gadgets and things that help us on our journey. We don't have to become dependent on them, but we can sure use them as a stopgap arrangement, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, let's talk about that then. You you said you touched upon, finding that within yourself. I mean, we all have it within ourselves. We have all of the infinite wisdom within ourselves. We have all of the tools within ourselves. And I find meditation is one of my best tools for me to tap in and help me be more steady with my vibration throughout the day. What are some of your favorite ways of raising your vibration, staying in alignment, all of that?
Everything that Abraham teaches,
Mm-hmm.
all of it.
Yeah.
There are quite a number of tools. Of course, meditation is one of them, but to me, um, appreciation supersedes everything. And so it's appreciation and pre-paving mainly.
Yes.
Just appreciate what you already have. Appreciate little things. You can appreciate big things, you can appreciate little things. I think appreciation is really easy to find, and pre-paving is one of my absolutely magic
Mm-hmm.
wand tools that I
Yes.
can't thank Abraham enough for. Pre-paving
Yeah.
is amazing. Pre-paving is amazing, truly amazing. Yes. So
Yeah.
that is my favorite exercise, is to pre-pave.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I remember going on a trip, and on the plane, I pre-paved the whole vacation. Like what I wanted. I was going to see my son in Colorado, and what I wanted us to have a lot of fun together. I wanted us to go on a lot of hikes in the mountains. I wanted it to be easy traveling, and everything just worked out just like I pre-paved, like better than I thought.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and then appreciation. I just happened to post in my group today, like it it wasn't necessarily, it was, I have an abundance of dot dot dot, and people can write in the comments what.
Hmm.
So to me that is appreciation, because you're
Hmm.
looking at, okay, all the things actually that I do have an abundance of. A lot of
Yeah.
times I'm focusing on, well, I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough friends, or I don't have whatever it may be, fitness, and just like look at all the abundance that you do have.
Yes, absolutely. So true.
Yeah. So speaking of abundance, I have to ask this question, even though it's not necessarily related to the topic, but I see that you wrote a book on how to use the law of attraction or something like that to win the lottery.
Hmm. Yes.
I love that. So tell me, and I know that you do a lot of talking about abundance and money. And so, yes, tell me a little bit about the book, and how, because it's just very
Where's
intriguing.
the principle of it is the same. If you have attachment to the outcome and beliefs that negate your winning, then you cannot win. So if you get off the subject and wait for the impulse to be guided to go and
Mhm,
buy a ticket, then you go buy that ticket. But
mhm,
there's no point in buying tickets in the interim when your belief system says the odds of winning are low, or you have attachment to the outcome, meaning that you buy a ticket and then you keep looking for the results, right?
mhm,
So if you are so attached, here's the thing. Uh, if the thing that you are doing seems like a no brainer, like it's just the next step in your journey, then that action is going to bring you the results that you want.
mhm,
But if you take an action and it seems like a far fetched kind of a scenario,
mhm.
then you're not ready for it.
Mm.
So the same concepts that apply to everything else apply to the winning of lottery as well. Attachment to the outcome will prevent it. If you keep thinking about it all the time, that will prevent it. Where are you thinking about it from? Are you thinking about winning from the top of the emotional scale? Because if you're at the top of the emotional scale, you won't even think about it because everything that you want is already coming to you, you see?
Mm-hmm.
So the people who want to win lotteries, they're not really very high up on the emotional scale, because when you're on high on the emotional scale, you're manifesting everything that you want. The thought of buying a lottery ticket doesn't even enter your head, you see? And
Yeah.
that's the difference. If you are buying the lottery ticket because you think it's the solution to everything in your life, then that means you have big time attachment to the outcome, and there's
Mhm.
no point in sending that money down the tube.
Yeah. Love that.
And
Love that.
that's what that book is about.
Yeah.
It's about helping people to understand the fact that winning the lottery is, when you're high on the emotional scale, you're winning the lottery every day,
Mm.
because you don't need to win a lottery in order for things to happen that you want,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yes,
That's
absolutely,
what it's all
absolutely.
about.
Yeah, I love it. I had to ask. Um, so applying this whole thing of attachment to the outcome and bringing it back into um, body, like wanting to create more fitness and that whole thing. It really is the attachment to the outcome that is sort of the thing in the way.
Yes, it always is. For most things that we want to change in our lives, it's attachment to the outcome. The more important something is, and the longer it's taking, chances are you've got big time negative beliefs that are getting in the way. Because if you want something a lot, it should manifest right away, as long as there are no beliefs that are preventing it.
Well, that's the thing. So
Right?
how do you work with people? I mean, I have my ways of working with people to help them transform their beliefs. Before it was simply identifying the belief, and Abraham has a lot on that and how to create a new story.
Mhm.
And that is my third step in my book: create a new story. And then, but I've heard you talk about how if you create a new story, if you say an affirmation, so to speak, and you don't believe it, it's not going to work. It needs to, you need to be able to line up whatever the new story is. It needs to feel good to you.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Because
So
you
what?
can't lie. You can't lie your way up the emotional scale.
You can't lie your way up the emotional scale. That is a quotable by Zehra. That is a quotable. You cannot lie. I am writing that one down. You cannot lie your way up the emotional scale.
Yeah, that's
I love
because
the way you said that. That is it. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. You can't. So like if somebody wants to say, oh, I'm a size 5, and you know that they're a size 20 right now, and that feels like, oh, that feels terrible.
too big a gap, too
Too
big a
big a
jump.
gap. Yeah, and you can't line up with it. You can't. That person may not be able to line up with that belief or that
Yes,
energy. So you
exactly.
soften it, and what is something that you can line up with.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. What would be something that that person might be able to line up with?
Well, their eventual goal might be to get to a size 5, but how about just getting from 20 to 18 first?
Yeah, and see how
Smaller
that
goals,
feels.
smaller goals, because that seems attainable. It's not that hard. See, anything that seems hard has too much effort in it. If it has too much effort in it, then as Abraham would say, you're swimming upstream instead of swimming downstream. We
Right.
don't want to do, if something has too much effort in it, that means that you're not ready for it. You haven't lined up your energy for it, so you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So 18, going from 20 to 18 is not that big a jump. So I can line up with it by soothing self-talk, by saying, okay, this is a small step. When I get there, then I'll plan my next step. Why don't I just focus on what are the things that I can do so I can go from 20 to 18?
Yeah, or just, a new belief. When you're talking to someone, when I'm talking to someone uh, in my community, and they might say, but I'm doing everything that, Abraham says, but I'm still not losing any weight. I'm still not making any progress. And not that this is all about weight loss, but this is what a lot of people are interested in. And so they keep rehashing that same story,
See, the
that
thing
it's
is,
not working for me.
yes, for sure. So here's the thing. Um, that kind of a thing happens when people don't know where they are on the emotional scale. They think that they are doing everything and so they should be getting results, but that just means that they are completely out of touch with their emotions.
Mhm.
Because you see, here's the thing, and Abraham has said this many times, relief feels like joy. Because if you've been depressed for a very long time and you get to anger, that is a lot of relief. You actually feel like you're on the top of the emotional scale, even though you're not really at the top of the emotional scale.
Mhm.
And so people who are doing the work and not getting results are doing the action part, but not the emotion part.
Mhm.
And they cannot really do justice to the emotion part if they are unaware of where they are emotionally. it's
Yes.
like it's
Yes.
like a GPS. If you
Mhm.
start on a journey and you program the GPS needs to know where you are in order to get you to where you want to go. But if you don't know where you are, how are you going to plot that course? And that, I think, is what goes wrong. And this is what I teach an
Mhm.
exercise for benchmarking your emotions in all my programs, because I find that that was one of my biggest stumbling blocks for myself, in the sense that when I started working with Abraham material, I did not know where I was emotionally, because I had spent a lifetime telling myself to be strong. And that means I'm so strong, I'm not going to feel any negative emotion. But I'm also not going to allow myself to feel extreme joy, because what if it goes away? So I had insulated myself from feeling emotion. But if you don't feel emotion, then you don't know which way you're headed, because the emotional scale is the GPS system.
Yes. Yes. So that's what my coach Gina says, is that you just put a happy sticker, happy face sticker on the negative
Yes.
emotion, because we think that's what Abraham's
Yes.
saying, is to not notice where you are, not acknowledge where you are, not feel the emotion. Let's not feel that negative emotion. I need to feel better. But a lot of times, to feel better, you need to know where you are.
Exactly.
And it's all about the emotions.
It is
You
all about,
cannot think your way
yes.
there.
Yes.
You
Yes.
cannot intellectualize your way there.
Yes, that's right. There has to be emotional movement.
Yes.
Unless there's emotional movement, you're not really going anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And it's this past year has been so much incredible growth for me personally, just really, really getting that and practicing it with the emotions, and tuning these emotions, and helping others tune like see where they really feel the emotion that they're feeling right now in this moment, and then tuning it to go move, helping them move up the vibrational scale.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And, a part of that coaching is helping people to soothe, because that's another thing I feel that people don't really know how to do, is to soothe themselves, because
Yeah.
their self-talk is always so critical towards themselves. They're their own worst critics, so they don't know how to make themselves feel better.
Right. Yes, exactly. And that is the work, quote unquote work, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes,
Is
that's
to
right.
learn how
Yeah.
to feel better
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah.
Well, I cannot believe that it's already been an hour that we've been talking. So I want to make sure that people know how to find you and find out about your books and your whatever you want to say. Please go ahead, and I'll put it in the show notes as well.
Why, thank you. Well, anyone who wants to find me can find me through my website, which is zmahoon.com. And my handle across all social media is also Zemahoon. So my first initial and my last name. And all my books are on Amazon. So, if you're interested in my work, you can most definitely start there, or just join me in my free community on Facebook, which is called Unlimited Life.
Yes, I just joined last night, and I'm
Awesome. Happy to have you.
excited to be there and to meet you. So wonderful, Zehra, to have this
Thank you so much
conversation
for
with
having me.
you. Yes,
Thank you.
you're so welcome. Thank you. That's a wrap. Thanks so much for listening to my brand new podcast, Delicious Alignment, Body Love, and Food Freedom. Make sure to go to deliciousalignment.com/podcast for the show notes and links mentioned in this interview and for future episodes. I've got wonderful guests lined up for you in the coming months, including more women and a few men who have used the teaching of Abraham Hicks to learn how to love their bodies. Many will talk about how they attracted desired changes to their bodies with ease and flow, and many will talk about how they decided to love their current bodies as is, period. You won't want to miss their stories. If you like this podcast, make sure to rate and review it. That will help get the word out to more people seeking their very own delicious alignment. Thank you for listening.